Morning. I'm up early this morning because I have quite a few things to get done today inside, and I'll tell you what I'm doing. This is my first ever attempt at a sourdough bread, and I have my starter here, which I will insert a picture and show you a little more up close, but it's risen right up to here, and last night it was about down at this level, and I've actually been feeding my starter baby for more than a week, and it seemed like at one point like maybe it was dying, but I went online and I did some troubleshooting and discovered that it did need, because it worked, warmer water when you add to it, and it needed to be put in a warmer place. It says 70 degrees, but that wasn't doing it. So I ended up putting it into my oven with the oven light on. And it also said not to leave it for too long because sometimes it can get too hot even with the oven light. So I would put it on for a little while, I don't know, maybe an hour, and then I would shut it off. And so the last time I fed this was yesterday, and I had it on with the light. And so you can see today it's more than doubled, which it's supposed to do, and it's really, really bubbly. So I'm hoping that it's ready. Like, this is my first time. So I've got a very simple recipe. It's a spelt bread recipe. I have the flour here in the bowl, and there's a little bit of whole wheat, but it's mostly spelt. I ran out of the amount of spelt. And the recipe is quite simple. It calls for a cup of sourdough starter. So I'll put that into my cup, and a cup and 2/3 to 2 1/4 cups of lukewarm water. I will try to reference this link that I'm using. I found it on Pinterest. And 4 1/2 or 4 1/4 cups of whole wheat spelt, and 2 teaspoons of salt, which I have here. Now, the only thing that this is, I think, 3 cups. I hope. I have another 1/2 cup here, and I can add a little more if I need to. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I've made bread a lot, but the difference is, when I read, is that when you make bread and you're kneading it, you can keep adding flour to it to prevent the stick, but according to the recipe that I'm reading here, it's saying not to add flour to it at all. You can put water on your fingers, but it's supposed to be quite sticky. So we're going to see this as an experiment. So I'm giving this I'm giving this a little stir, and then I will pour it into my 1 cup. Where did I put the cap on that? Okay, I'm going to pour it into my 1 cup measure. It gives you ideas too on how to save the rest of your sourdough starter and things you can make. There is a pizza dough recipe. I'd kind of like to try that. So pour it until... Now, this looked really, really bubbly on the top. It seems to be quite bubbly all the way through, and I've actually used almost all of it. It's right down to the bottom. So that's about a cup there, and I'm assuming I'm probably going to need this amount because it does say 4 1/4 cups, and I have, I think, 4 in there right now. So the starter goes right in. This could be a really bad experiment. I have no idea, but I just wanted to give it a try. I used to make bread a lot, and I haven't made it in a while because having diabetes is not really the best thing for me to be eating, and I had a few little stomach issues, and so I've been trying to stay away and kind of limit my bread that I eat during a day. But I read, because of the fermentation process that you use when you're making the starter and the bread itself when it's raising, it's supposed to be better for you. It's supposed to be, the fermentation is supposed to be better for your stomach and better for your digestion. So for that reason I thought, well, maybe I'll give that a try. And so now the water, it does say I can use 1 2/3 to 2 1/4 cups. So I have about 2 1/4 cups of lukewarm water in my measuring cup. And I'm not going to put the whole thing in. I will put about the 1 2/3. I gotta look at the. Okay, so 1 2/3 is about up to there. So I need to leave about 1/4 cup. And that's a little bit more than 1/4 cup. I'm gonna put that there. My starter did seem to be quite not liquidy, but it was quite easy to pour, and I have seen some on some recipes that looked a little bit thicker, so we will see. So the idea is to mix it up, and then it needs to be kneaded for 5 to 10 minutes. And like I said, that could be the tricky part. I think I have to wet my fingers first. It's supposed to be sticky. And I also forgot to, I don't think it says when it's raising. Yeah, it says to dump it on a surface and knead it with your hands until smooth, approximately 10 to 12 minutes. Well, this is getting pretty good here. And you put it into I can put it into an oiled bowl. So I do have a bowl of, I'm going to try to use this one, simply because it has a flat bottom, and I think what I'd like to do later is it does recommend baking it in a Dutch oven kind of thing, and I do have one that's about the right size. So I thought if I raised it in that and you add parchment to it, that it might, now I honestly can't tell, this might need a tiny little bit more water. Like I said, this is a first time experiment, and so we will see how it goes. It's just about together enough, I think, to dump it out and start kneading it. I'm wondering, yeah, and it did say to wet my fingers and keep it wet, so I'm going to try to do that. Now this particular recipe, it does say to raise it, let it raise until double, 3 to 6 hours. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get this all done in a day. Although here in northern New Brunswick where I live, it's just 9:30 right now. So 3 hours would put me to noontime. And it says not to let it rise too much. You want it to be about double, but don't let it go further than that. So I'll check it at noontime and just see what it's like. And if it doesn't make it, but I think I will put it back in the oven with the light on. So I'm looking at the time and it's 9:32. So that means that should go to about 9:42. It is very sticky. I see what they mean. You can't, it's really even hard to knead it like a regular dough because it's quite sticky. I can see this is in the way. So you can, I hope you can see it. So you're a little bit far away from it, but I had a hard time I'm just learning this as I go. And I had a hard time to set up the camera so that you could not only see the dough, but that it wouldn't cut my head off at the same time. Sometimes I think it's nice to see the person, but for other things that I would do in the future, I can set up the tripod so that it's just on my, more water, so that it's just on my my hands or on the counter so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to turn this around because it's pushing to the back. It is very, very sticky. I don't know if you can tell from the picture. I keep having to kind of scrape it up a little bit. It's very sticky, but that's what they're saying that it's supposed to be. So I'm going with that. And I'm watching the time. I'm only 2 minutes in. I have 8 more minutes to go. Putting the water on your fingers though does seem to help. So I guess it's a good idea to keep a little bit of water nearby. So I won't make you watch the whole 10 minutes of me kneading, but and I think that's all you need to know. I did find this on Pinterest, and just for your information, it's on savorthebest.com. Now I will try to actually put a link. I'm new at this, like I said, so I'm not, I will see if I can put a link down below when I post this on YouTube. And if you try it, this is supposed to be an easy one. And her recipe was very easy. It was just the flour and the water. You know what I forgot to do? I just realized I forgot to put the salt in. It called for 2 teaspoons of salt, so I'm going to try to, it should be fine to incorporate it now. There's 1. Her recipe directions were quite extensive, but and she did mention using water that's you know, not directly from your tap. But the directions that I found online for troubleshooting, you know, they added a few more things. They did say that, you know, your water, they gave you a warmer water temperature, and they said rather than this, more water, the 70 degrees that was recommended on this site, that you could have it up to something like 80 degrees, not to let it go too warm after that. You can have your oven light on, but don't leave it in there for hours and hours because it can still get too warm. But once I once I started to feed it again, because I thought it only had a few bubbles in it, so I thought it was really done for. But once I read that and fed it again and set it in the oven with the light on, that made all the difference in the world. In the first, it didn't do it right away because I think I fed it Thursday night, yes, and put it in the oven with the light on. It did get more bubbles than it had been getting before, so I had hope. And then so yesterday I added more of the half cup of flour and the 1/4 cup of water. You take a half out first and put it back in the oven for different parts of yesterday. And so this morning you saw it, it's just full of bubbles and it seems like it's ready to go. So I decided to give it a try. So it's still very sticky, but I was reading it's supposed to be that way. Not to add flour. Changes the consistency of it, I think. Somehow it doesn't make it as soft and tender. So what I have on my clock is 9 minutes and 9:37. So I've been doing it for 5 minutes, so I've got another 5 to go. And so I will cut some of this off. I don't dare touch my camera right now. And I'll post a part of it. You can, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments section and I'll let you know. And like I said, I will try to post the site where I got my recipe. So I'm hoping this turns out. It's sticky, but I can feel a little bit of a difference in the dough. It's starting to get a little bit more elasticy, like a regular dough, so that when I fold it over now, which wasn't as easy to do, it's springing back immediately. So I have hope that that's going to be right. I only have 1 minute left to do the 10 minutes. And then I'll have to stop for a minute and oil my pan, my bowl that I'm going to put it in. I'm finding the spatula is very, it's an offset spatula, a small one, is very helpful where it sticks. I'm able to scrape it up a little bit, add some water to my hands. So it does seem quite elasticy. No, you can't see it there. I'm going to hold it up and hopefully it's not going to spill. Oops, let me try this again. It's flowing down, but let's try this way. If I stick my fingers in it, no, you can't see it because it's too far away. But if I poke my fingers in it, which is normally what they say for a regular bread dough, if you poke it with your fingers, make little holes, and then the dough springs back, that means it's elastic, and that means that it's ready to go. So I think this dough is just about ready. 2 more minutes will give it 10 minutes, so I guess I will try to go for the 2 minutes. There now, I'm going to stop that, hope that it's ready, and I'm going to stop and wash my hands and get the bowl oiled and put it in there, cover it up and put it in the oven. Okay, it's in there, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a shape. And I'm going to go find myself a tea towel. I love the pretty yellow polka dots. So there, that's going on, and it's going in the oven. So I will do a cleanup and check it at noon and let you know how it's going. Hi again, it's Saturday morning. And the next thing on my list this morning was to get a few of my vegetable seeds planted. And there's some things that I start a little bit later. For instance, cucumbers, things that grow fast, I can start later. But I have a few things that I found they weren't far enough along last year when I planted them. And I just found they didn't grow all that well. So this morning what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant a few seeds, and I bought myself a little grow light which my husband set up downstairs for me. I have a few seeds left from last year which I'm going to have to see if they're still okay. This is a new one that I tried, and it didn't really come to anything last year, and I'm just going to try to plant it earlier and see if I can get something. It's called broccoli Romanesco. I'm never sure of where it looks like that. And I'm going to try that this morning. I have some tomatoes. I also have one, it's quite old. I'm going to see if it still grows. It's from Hope Seeds in Nova Scotia. They're organic. And this one is called Black Seeded Simpson. And I did really like them. So then I also ordered some other things from a seed company. This is new for me. I've never tried this before. It's a kohlrabi. So if anybody has any comments or suggestions, I hope that's focusing. I'm using my phone and I've never done it before like this. Any suggestions? I've never cooked or used it or grown it. The other thing I'm going to start is some chamomile, because I think I can have this growing in the house. I really love chamomile tea, and I noticed on someone else's podcast, I think it was the Cottage Fairy, that she had saved her chamomile. I don't even know if it's the flowers or the leaves. I have to read up on that. I'm a beginner at all these things. I want to dry some and keep it for the winter for me. The other thing is this calendula. and they do look kind of similar to marigolds, but I don't think I saw them around here in the garden centers last year. And again, I saw somebody on a podcast making a cream from the dried calendula leaves. So I want to have that growing in my garden this year and give it a try. So what I've got here is I've got a pan. It has a plastic top that can go on it later. I have some of the little plastic containers which I don't really like to buy anymore, but these are left over. I reuse them over and over again. And I also have some of these composting ones. And I have just regular potting soil. Like I said, I'm no expert at this. I actually think I'm going to take a break and go downstairs because I do have some something else that I might be able to, I think it's perlite, that I might be able to put in with the potting soil. So I'm going to stop this and I'm going to take a run downstairs and see if I can find it. Vermiculite it's called, and I didn't have any. So I'm really anxious to get this going today, so I'm just going to do it with regular soil. And I may have said before, please don't take this as I'm no professional. I do not have mastery of gardening. I garden, and I usually have a pretty nice garden, and I've done it for many years. And I do start a few seeds, not always completely successful. I probably could do a little more reading, and if I do go out this week, I think I may pick up something that I could add to the soil the next time that I do it, because I will be starting more seeds other than today. But I've had a really busy week getting some things done that had to be done, mailing parcels for Easter to my grandson, and I had a photo book made for my mother, who's also in a nursing home over on the island, and I haven't seen her since last fall or early September. And I did a little painting for her. And I sent off my birch trees to the SACWA Spotlight auction, standing for Studio Art Quilt Associates. So I got that in the mail. And so I just couldn't wait for the weekend to come, and so that I could do some seed planting and look after my sourdough starter. And so I will just do a few today. We just bought ourselves a little grow light downstairs, so I'm going to put them down there after I'm done planting. And I'm not sure what I'm going to plant first. Actually, this one, the lettuces, I think I'm going to wait until I have another container that I can put it in, because I can kind of put it in a container that's all together instead of planting it individually. So I do know that I want to get some tomatoes planted. I do have tomatoes. These ones did really well last year. They're a San Marzano, if I'm pronouncing it right. So they're like a Roma tomato. I had one plant that I'm sure had at least 3 dozen, and they were big tomatoes on it. So I don't even know if they really need to be started ahead, but they will come sooner if I do start them ahead. So I'm going to try to put just a couple, because I guess I could give some to a friend if need be. Because I don't have a huge space in my garden. I have kind of a 2-3 foot section that's up against my deck in the back, full sun. And I put, for instance, the smaller cherry type tomatoes. I would put that in a pot on my deck. And I have a small little space up against my house, but it's got a couple of shrubs there and some flowers. And I also did put garlic in the fall, and it's the first time I've ever done that. So I'd like to see how that grows. And I have a small raised bed that's about 3 by, I don't know, maybe 6-7 feet, something like that. So I don't have a lot of space. And also, because I'm a little bit limited in my mobility, especially now that my hip is getting worse and I'm waiting for a hip. I can't I can't do a lot. I do have some nice ergonomic things, both for sitting and there, that one. Now, what I have to do is remember, I have some little things that I'm going to put labels on, but as soon as I put all of these tomatoes in, I'm going to stop and label them so that I remember what's in here. And so I'm just going to sit here quietly and plant these up, and then I'm going to take them down and put them under the grow light and see how that works. And whoops, these are old. I've had these quite a long time, so I have no idea. These black, they're called organic black-seeded Simpson. You can't really see a picture of it, but they come from Hope Seeds in Nova Scotia. So I'm actually going to sprinkle a few of these on because they are older. So I'm not just going to put one in there because I don't know how well, I don't even know if they will grow. So I'll just sprinkle a few, put the rest back. So there, I did those. I'm going to stop and I'm going to put the labels in here so I know what I've got. This is the last thing I'm planting today. I went down to my cold room where I keep a few of my pots, and I picked this one out because I thought it would be good. I usually plant lettuce, the mesclun mix of lettuce, kind of all in a grouping in a pot. Sometimes I put on my deck. So this is not, it's not a very large pot. I'd say it's, I don't know, maybe 7 inches square. But I thought it would be a good one to try. I think I'm going to leave it upstairs here in my dining room. We get the full sun here until it sprouts, and then I may put it downstairs under the grow light for a little while. So that's it for my planting today, and I'll put a little picture in here later of what it looks like downstairs with the grow light. I just bought a very small one to give it a try this year, so I'll show it to you.